You're walking north. The sun is lower here. Weaker. It barely clears the tree line by midday. Back home, it burns straight overhead, relentless, vertical. Here it grazes the horizon and disappears. Your skin was built for that southern sun, built to block it, built to survive it. But here, that same protection is working against you. You don't know that yet. No one does. You're following game animals into unfamiliar territory. The cold is manageable. The landscape is open. What you can't feel is the slow deficit building inside your body, something invisible, something your body can't manufacture anymore, not in this light, not with this skin. And that invisible starvation is about to reshape the human body permanently. Skin color isn't about appearance. It never was. It's a biological negotiation, a trade-off between two competing needs baked into the chemistry of survival. On one side, you need protection from ultraviolet radiation. Too much UV destroys folate. Folate is essential. Without it, neural tubes don't close properly during fetal development. Pregnancies fail. Infants are born with catastrophic defects. On the other side, you need UV to synthesize vitamin D. Without vitamin D, bones don't mineralize correctly. Immune systems collapse. Muscle function deteriorates. Dark skin excels at the first job. It blocks UV aggressively. Light skin excels at the second. It absorbs UV efficiently. For most of human evolutionary history, one setting worked. Then we moved. Modern humans left Africa roughly 70,000 years ago. Some groups pushed north, into the Levant, into Central Asia, then Europe. The further north they went, the UV index dropped. Not slightly, dramatically. Northern Europe receives roughly 6 times less UV radiation annually than equatorial Africa. That's not a minor adjustment. That's a completely different sun. Dark skin in that environment isn't protective anymore. It's a barrier. It's blocking the exact radiation the body desperately needs to function. And the body doesn't adapt slowly to that kind of deficit. Vitamin D deficiency has consequences within a single generation. Rickets, skeletal deformities, immune failure, reduced fertility. These aren't long-term population statistics. These are children dying. These are mothers who can't carry pregnancies to term. The selection pressure was immediate and brutal. Here's what makes this remarkable. The mutations that lighten skin didn't emerge in one place. They emerged independently. Multiple times, on separate continents, in separate populations with no contact whatsoever. Scientists have identified several distinct genetic pathways that reduce melanin production. Europeans primarily carry variants in a gene called SLC45A2. East Asians carry different variants, in separate genes entirely, the same physical outcome, achieved through completely different biological mechanisms. That's convergent evolution. Nature solving the same problem twice, using different tools. It's the strongest possible signal that lighter skin in low UV environments wasn't coincidence. It wasn't random genetic drift. It was selection. Hard, consistent, unavoidable selection. Every generation that couldn't synthesize enough vitamin D left fewer descendants. Every generation that could left more. But the timeline is surprising. Lighter skin appeared later than most people assume. Ancient DNA analysis has changed everything we thought we understood. Consider a hunter-gatherer skeleton recovered from Spain, dated to roughly 7,000 years ago. Scientists extracted and analyzed the full genome. The result was startling. This individual carried genes for blue eyes and dark skin. That combination sounds impossible by modern European standards. But it wasn't unusual at all. Early European hunter-gatherers appear to have been dark-skinned for thousands of years after arriving in Europe. They were surviving, but not yet fully adapted. The depigmentation came later. It accelerated. And the reason it accelerated had nothing to do with sunlight alone. It had everything to do with what people started eating. Hunter-gatherers ate fish, organ meats, animal liver. These foods are extraordinarily dense in vitamin D. A single portion of fatty fish delivers more of the nutrient than most modern supplement recommendations. When early humans hunted large game, they consumed the whole animal, including the organs that concentrate critical nutrients. Vitamin D deficiency wasn't a severe crisis in those populations because food was compensating for the weaker sun. Then agriculture arrived. Around 8,000 to 10,000 years ago across Europe, population shifted to grains, cereals, crops that contain essentially no vitamin D whatsoever. The dietary buffer vanished almost immediately. Suddenly, dark pigmentation wasn't just a mild inefficiency in northern climates, it was lethal. The selection pressure that had been manageable became catastrophic. Depigmentation accelerated sharply in farming populations. The ancient DNA confirms it precisely. Archaeologists have compared genomes from European hunter-gatherers against those of early European farmers. The farmers show rapid spread of light-skin gene variants. The hunter-gatherers don't carry them at nearly the same frequency. The transition happened fast. In evolutionary terms, a few thousand years is almost nothing, a handful of generations. But that was enough, because selection doesn't require millions of years when the pressure is intense enough. Every winter, every pregnancy, every infant born that season. The cost of getting it wrong was absolute. No second chance, no partial credit. You synthesized enough vitamin D and your children survived. You didn't and they didn't. That's the entire equation, repeated across every family and every northern farming settlement for dozens of consecutive generations. Latitude mattered enormously, but it wasn't the only variable. Cloud cover mattered, diet mattered, clothing mattered. Populations that remained near coastlines had consistent access to fish. They needed less dramatic pigmentation change. Inland agricultural populations had none of that buffer. They depigmented fastest. Scandinavian populations, Northern European farmers, the palest populations on Earth today trace their ancestry through exactly those inland agricultural communities where the deficit was sharpest and the selection hardest. This wasn't random. It followed a geographic and dietary logic that maps almost perfectly onto the archaeological record. Every population that moved far from the equator and exchanged organ meats for grain went through the same biological transformation. Some faster, some slower, all of them pushed in the same direction. There's a persistent misunderstanding worth addressing. Darker skin isn't inferior in low UV environments. It isn't defective. It's optimized for a different set of conditions. Move a lightly pigmented person to equatorial Africa without modern protection, and the consequences are severe. Skin cancer rates climb sharply. More critically, intense UV destroys folate circulating in the bloodstream. Folate depletion during early pregnancy causes neural tube defects, spina bifida, anencephaly. In a high UV environment, protecting folate is worth everything. Dark skin does exactly that job. It's not coincidence that the deepest skin tones on Earth appear in regions with the highest UV radiation. Ethiopia, the Congo Basin, coastal South Asia. The selection pressure maps almost perfectly to the UV index. Skin color follows sunlight with extraordinary precision. The same logic runs in reverse. Move a deeply pigmented population to high-latitude environments without dietary compensation, and the pressure toward depigmentation becomes intense, immediate. This is exactly what the ancient DNA record shows happening in real time across European prehistory. No mystery here. Just biology responding to physics. The amount of UV reaching the skin, the amount of vitamin D the body can manufacture, the amount of folate the body can protect. These three variables in constant tension across generations. Skin pigmentation is the body's evolved answer to that tension, calibrated slowly over time, reshaped whenever the variables changed significantly. When populations moved, the calibration eventually moved with them. What's striking is how recent most of these changes actually are. Humans have existed for roughly 300,000 years. Agriculture is only 10,000 years old. The most dramatic depigmentation in European populations happened within the last 5,000 to 8,000 years. In evolutionary terms, that's yesterday. The human body was still actively transforming when the Roman Empire rose and fell, still changing when the first pyramids were constructed. These weren't ancient transformations completed before recorded civilization. They were happening alongside civilization, concurrent with everything else humans were inventing and building. That's how powerful the selection pressure was. It didn't need geological time. It needed consistent consequences. And it had them every season. Today, the genetic variants producing pale skin are among the fastest spreading mutations ever detected in the archaeological genome record. Scientists can measure selection speed directly from ancient DNA samples across time. The numbers are extraordinary. These alleles spread through European populations faster than almost any other known trait. Faster than lactose tolerance, faster than most pathogen resistances ever identified. That speed tells you everything about the intensity of what those populations were experiencing. They weren't drifting gradually toward lighter skin. They were being driven there. By physics, by diet, by latitude, by every northern winter that claimed the children who couldn't synthesize enough vitamin D to survive it. Skin color isn't simply heritage. It's a record. A precise biological record of where your ancestors lived, what they ate, and exactly how much sun reached the ground beneath their feet. That's what humans,